Hi everybody, this is Jeanette from Boricua Sewing and Crafts. In this video, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was hooping, okay? Hooping things for your 5x7 Brother SC1900, okay? There are various ways of hooping fabric for embroidery, and I just wanted to show you, a couple of ways that I do it, okay? I think there are about like 3 of them that I'm going to show you. Now, when I first started to learn how to embroider, okay, one of the things that I did was I did it like the traditional way, okay. With your machine, you get your 5x7 hoop. If you have another type of machine, sometimes it's a 4x4 or whatever size it is. Usually the hoop is like this. This is the one that you snap right into the machine, okay. I also have the magnetic hoop over here as well. The magnetic hoop, this is all about floating your devices, okay? And I'll show you exactly. Let me start with this one, and then I'll show you, we'll go into this one, okay? Now, to start from the very beginning, when I first got my machine, right, you get your 5x7 hoop. The way this is this hoop, it has a little screw, and you open it up right here, and it takes out the inside piece, right? Now, if you look really closely to the top of your hoop, you're going to notice that you're going to have like an arrow that's pointing up and an arrow that's pointing down. This means that this is the top of the inside of the hoop, and this is how it exactly goes, okay? Now, a lot of times what people do when they first get their machines, right, because you're just learning, and people still do it even as experienced embroiderers, is that they take their stabilizer, they put it on top of the inside of the hoop. This is the outside. I just put it aside. And I want to make sure that you cover, yep, you can see everything. Let me move this little camera a little bit over here so that way you guys can see. Okay. All right. So what a lot of people do is they take their stabilizer, they put it inside. Then they take their fabric, they put it on top, right? As so. Well, first they do this. They push it together. Then they take this, they put it underneath, right? And then they take this and they snap it in, okay? With the fabric and the stabilizer, okay? They just snap it in place. And sometimes you got to open it a little more so that it has room to snap in place. And then once you have everything secure, you go ahead and then you tighten the hoop. And then when you go like this and it feels like a little drum, I'm not embroidering, don't worry. This isn't done correctly, okay? I just want to do a quick video because, I'm not into the long drawn out videos, okay? So anyway, I just like to give you guys the info so that way you guys can do your thing. So anyway, this is how usually people do it, okay? But usually when they do it, you want to pull because you want to make sure that your fabric is in here nice and secure and straight. Run your hand through it. Make sure it's not bubbling anywhere and stuff like that. And then they will go ahead and they will pop this in the machine and they will start to embroider, okay? Now, another way to do it, though, is, and I'm going to take this out. Another way that people do it is something called floating, okay? Now, usually you do floating with sticky stabilizer, and with sticky stabilizer, what you do is, you put your stabilizer in, and then you peel it, and then the thing is sticky. This is a tearaway, so I'm just going to put this in the hoop, and it's a lot easier to just hoop the thing. This is how I usually hoop a lot of my items, because it's just so much easier. Because if you really think about it, the only thing that you are hooping is your stabilizer. When you are hooping the stabilizer along with the item, it can get kind of tricky. Sometimes you want the item to be a position a certain way, and it kind of makes it really hard because sometimes when you are hooping, your fabric can shift, okay? So this is me, just Jeanette. This is how Jeanette loves to do it. I like to always take either sticky stabilizer, or I use my tearaway or my cutaway, okay? And what I do is I hoop the stabilizer. Then what I do is I take KK 2000, I spray it on, okay? You spray it lightly. You don't go crazy, you know, that kind of stuff, okay? And what it is this is temporary spray adhesive. And then what you do is just take your fabric and you just lay it down. And then from the inside of your fabric, you go like this, outside, okay? And what you're doing is you're kind of like just spreading it to make sure it's okay. And then you'll notice that the fabric will stick to your stabilizer. Now, another form that people do if they don't want to use temporary spray adhesive, some people don't like using it because they say it gums up their needles and stuff like that. It will gum up your needle, but the thing is, I've been pretty successful with this. I do change my needles a lot, and I do clean my needles a lot. So it just depends, you know. If you don't want to use this, not a problem. Something that people do is they use pins. So what they'll do is they hoop their stabilizer, and it's the same form of floating. It's just that you're just attaching the fabric to your stabilizer in a different way. So what you do is just take your fabric, put it on, and then they just take the pins and they just kind of just pin down the fabric as so, okay? And then it's just another way, you know, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You just have to do what's comfortable for you. And you know, and some people, what they do also is sometimes they use this plus they pin just to make sure that the fabric doesn't shift or go anywhere and stuff like that. And then you just pin on one side and one side and one side and one side. Okay. Now, I personally, unless I really need it, I don't pin. Now, the one thing that I do tell you is when you are pinning, this is the only caution that I have, is make sure that you trace your embroidery field. You do not want your needle to hit the pin, because if you do that, you can break your needle, okay? And you don't want to mess up your item. So it's just something for you to put out there. And another thing to mention as well, now that, you know, it just popped in my head, is depending on the item, sometimes you may not want to pin. Remember, when you're pinning, you're making holes. So right now I'm using cotton fabric, and it really doesn't matter. You can pin it, and I can take this out. You're not going to see holes in the item or anything like that. But let's say that you are embroidering on a piece of leather, okay, or some other type of material that when you put a hole into it, it's going to be a permanent hole. So in that situation, what I would do is I would float my item, and then what I would do is I would use the temporary spray adhesive, and that would hold it down, okay? And then, you know, I would just go ahead and embroider, and I would not pin, okay? So this is just something that I wanted to do a video on, because a lot of people are like, you know, how do you hoop your item? And I say floating, and they're like, what is floating? And I'm like, okay, so a lot of times this is how I do it. This is floating, okay? This is when you just hoop your stabilizer, and then you take your fabric or your item, and then you are just putting it on top. This is a way that I usually do embroider. As you know, get more experience in it, it's something that you may end up liking to do too, because it is a lot quicker. And things that I like about floating is I feel like I have more of a manipulation of the fabric. And I'm going to tell you, because when you are sometimes hooping this with the stabilizer and the fabric, sometimes the bottom can shift a little bit, and then while you're trying to snug it in, it can sometimes move the fabric, and then you end up losing your center point and stuff like that. Now also, it depends also on the fabric. Sometimes if you have a very thick towel makes it very difficult to snap into this along with that. So in that situation, I float as well. And what I like is I can take this, and let's say I want to fold this, and I have a center place, which is here. I can take my center place, and then I can go ahead and I can just mark it. You know, I do my temporary spray adhesive, and then what I'll do is I'll fold it in half, put my center post in there, and then I go like this, and then I just open this, and then I just smooth it out. And then I have it hooped right on my center point. So just something, you know, that I wanted to mention and stuff. Another thing that I wanted to show you though, this is the hoop that comes with your machine with the Brother SC1900. The other thing that I wanted to show you to talk about is the magnetic hoop. Now this is a hoop that I kind of recommend, and a lot of people have purchased it and really do like it. There are two things that I really love about this hoop. It makes it a lot easier to slide in and out of the machine when you slide this in and out of the machine. You got this little bolt right here. As you can see, this is pretty thin, so it makes it a lot easier to come in and out. But this does not come in two pieces like this, okay? This has, you know, the one that came with your machine, of course, has the two pieces, the top and the bottom. This just has the bottom, okay? So this is really easy. It's all about floating with this. There's nothing else but floating. What you have is what serves as the top part of the hoop are your magnets, okay? And these magnets are pretty strong. You will be surprised. The one that I have came with 6, okay? I'm just showing it, the one with the 4. And what you do is you just take your stabilizer, cutaway, sticky, tearaway, whichever you're using, it doesn't matter. And then what you do is you just place it on here with your item. Now, a lot of times what I do when I'm using this, okay, to make it very easy, I will take this fabric and I will just place it on here, okay? And after I have it on here, okay, and I use my thing or whatever, I'm going, you know, my temporary spray adhesive, I take this bottom part and then I just put it here. And then what I'll do is I'll just align this. Now, another thing you can do is you can just put this here, and then what I'll do is I'll just get a new one here. The stabilizer does, I said stabilizer because I'm actually grabbing a new piece because I know this is kind of folded, so it kind of makes it hard for you to see. This does come with a grid, okay? I usually don't use the grid though. What I usually do is I just go ahead and I just use a regular ruler, okay? And usually what I do is I will just take this here, okay? And I just put my little magnets in there, you know, to hold it. But when I do that, I'm sorry, let me back up. Usually what I do is I take the fabric that I'm going to use and I actually put it on here. And, you know, and I go ahead and then, you know, I use the temporary spray adhesive on there. So I go like this. And then what I'll do is I will use this. And then you can either take the grid that came with the magnetic hoop and then you can mark your little centers. Or, you know, I'll take a ruler and then I'll mark the center because you can feel the edge, okay, of where it is. So I have the edges here, so I'll like draw something here, draw something here, and draw something here and here, and I know where the edges are, and then I'll just calculate the middle. And then this makes it very, very easy for me to go in and out. This is really, really fabulous for if you have very thick towels. Makes it very, very easy for you to go ahead and embroider on because it's so thin that, it just makes it very much easier to go in and out. But this is called floating also. Now, you can use pins here as well too. You don't have to just use the magnets. Oh, excuse me, I had a sneeze. Sorry about that. Okay, so you don't just have to just use the magnets. You can also use the pins as well. All you have to do is the same thing as when you were using the other hoop. Just put your pins in here and, you know, it'll help to keep everything secure. However, the one caveat that I will say with this is the same as I said with this other hoop. When you're pinning, just make sure that when in the area that you are embroidering that you do not hit the pins. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to do a quick video because I know I have been getting a lot of questions about what is floating about, and stuff like that. And I wanted to show you guys how to do it with the hoops that come with the SC1900, you know, which is the 5x7. Same thing, you do it if you have a 4x4. And then also if you go ahead and you have went ahead and purchased the magnetic hoop, which I truly love. I'm gonna be honest, this hoop has replaced this hoop. The only time I pull out these hoops is when I need to pre-hoop stuff in there so I can keep going through the machine. So anyway, This is really, really, really good. Worth every penny. So anyway, just wanted to show you guys quickly what hooping is about and how I do it. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. And I go live every Friday at 8 o'clock at Eastern Standard Time. So happy sewing and embroidery. Bye.